Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Kramer?
Here.
Mrs. Lane?
Here.
Mrs. Rich?
Here.
Mrs. Gallagher?
Here.
Mr. Kraftcheck?
Here.
Mr. Parzak?
Here.
The meeting is now open. Adequate notice of the meeting was provided by posting a copy of the time and place on the municipal clerk's bulletin board and mailing a copy of same to the press and the Cape May County Herald on January 4th, 2018. Will everyone please rise to salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll start the work session with A&F. Mrs. Lane.
Mrs. Lane, okay. First thing, do we want to hold the discussion items until after the committee,
Yes.
employee reports?
Yes.
Okay. Then
Yes,
Jill,
we
why
can
don't you?
start with the borough engineer.
Go ahead.
report.
Thank you. On the capital project front, we had a bid opening on May 25th for the 95th Street bathroom renovation project. The lowest responsible bidder was Maxwell Construction in the amount of $350,000, which is under budget. Council has a resolution awarding this contract at your next portion of the meeting today. And if that carries through, we will move the project into pre-construction meeting, submittals, and then construction in the fall of this year. The 94th and 114th Street bulkhead replacement project will be submitted for permitting within the next 2 weeks. That project is also on target for construction in the fall of this year as well. The 82nd Street Recreation Facility Tennis Court Building is wrapping up design, which should make Miranda happy. I don't know if she's here. We will be requesting a motion to bid at the June 19th council meeting to go out to bid with advertisement for bid the following week. And this project is also scheduled for construction in the fall of this year. Last capital improvement project is the 2018 Utility and Road Program. We are currently designing that. Once we get farther along, we'll be able to strike a bid schedule and come back to council for advertisement to bid. Lastly, in regards to grant applications, Joe and I are in the process of scheduling a pre-application meeting with the Cape May County Open Space Board for the Borough Marina site. I believe we're going to be booking a date next week with Leslie, and we'll be able to talk about options and improvements and things that are eligible that may meet goals and objectives of the borough, and bring that back to you. Last item I'd like to report is just a reminder to council that I'm here every Thursday on non-council meeting weeks from 9 to 1. So if you want to stop in to talk about engineering projects, or if you want to drop off breakfast, I'll be downstairs from 9 to 1. That's my report.
The road project that you're talking about, what specific roads are they that you're going to, is there 10, Jill?
I think there was yeah, I mean,
And that's slated to where you're saying you were hoping to go to bid in the fall?
That might be slightly aggressive. I want to get through survey and design, which is on.
Okay.
I'm thinking worst-case scenario would start construction late winter of this year, maybe early 19.
Okay.
A hiatus in June and a remobilization in September of next year.
So it's probably more like 2019 road projects? Okay.
Right.
And that was the one that had several beach ends, correct?
yes.
I had
Okay.
5 beach blocks. I had a state aid road in it, I believe it was 94th Street. We had a project location map, I don't have it in front of me.
Right, that's what I'm trying to, and that's the one that we're, okay,
Yeah, I sent that map over to Jill for
okay.
for you.
The boat ramp reconstruction, that's scheduled for next year? This year?
Open space?
Anywhere?
Well, you mean the actual application?
The reconstruction of rebuilding the boat ramp, where are we?
So we transmitted a report with options, costs, et cetera. I don't believe the borough's decided yet.
Correct. One of the things that we will be discussing when we go and meet with the county open space is if those repairs would qualify under the open space grant. That will dictate exactly when we'll be able to start the construction of that.
And just to remind council, that special round of funding has 2 deadlines. One is August of this year and December of this year. So I believe what we'll do is we'll go in, we'll talk about improvements, we'll talk about the boat ramp and why we need to reconfigure it, possibly how that's going to enhance more activities there, bring more uses. We're going to get their feedback and bring that back to you, and then hopefully at some point in time, build a consensus on what the project is, and then submit it.
Right. And we did do the temporary repairs with removing the,
Filter fabric?
thank you, filter fabric, so that the boats don't get caught in those. We took care of that, the immediate issue.
Anybody else have any questions?
Well, so, all right, so if you meet with the county, and then you come back to us with options
Correct.
on the funding and what it's going, you have a tentative design? I mean,
Yes.
We
So
do.
we have a layout on the reconfigured boat ramp where it's oriented east to west.
east-west,
In
okay,
terms of the overall project, is
All right.
undefined.
okay.
We know we want to put in a
So
walkway.
once we hear from your meeting with the county, and then we decide what direction we're going to go in, then we would be looking at next year for that.
Correct.
Right.
the budget.
Regardless, it won't be a 2018 project, it would have to be 2019 for the funding.
Okay,
And the county will give us an idea before there's a full, like, official application, whether or
Yeah.
not we're kind of headed in a direction that they would fund.
Correct.
And those plans we spoke about prior included the gate we were talking about, correct?
A
That's one of
gate
the
or an
options,
option
right?
of not doing.
That was
right.
like
That was
option
an
That was
D.
one of the options, a
Right.
gate versus increasing the height,
Exactly.
changing, yeah.
okay, the two, when you first started your presentation, the two bulkhead jobs that
Mhm.
are going to go out for bid in the not-too-distant future?
Yes,
Are they going in at 8 feet?
yes.
Thank you, okay.
Anybody else?
Anything
Actually,
else,
just a case in point on that, 114th Street bulkhead, the existing elevation is actually 9. So we're going to put it back at the same elevation it was before.
114's elevate grade is at 9?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
9, 9.1, 9.2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that high. So where's the bulkhead sit now? Right at grade, or is it just above there? Can't recall
Well,
if you have to
as
step
as
over
the
it or not.
bulkhead goes down the side yard of Mr. Loft's house, which is our bulkhead, which was something we discovered during the process, that's at grade because his backyard kind of butts up to that. I believe on the landward side of the bulkhead, it's probably a couple of feet because you have to walk up a couple steps and then you go down
Go over.
waterward.
Anything else for the engineer?
Okay, tax assessor?
Where's the clock?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's tax appeal time. So the borough had a total of 58 county tax appeals, 2 state tax court cases. I sent 16 settlement stipulations out in the mail, so that means we have like 42 to hear with the board. We'll be hearing those June 12th. And so far, we'll see how it goes. Just a little side note that in the rush to Memorial Day and 4th of July, in the past 2 weeks, I've had 4.7 million approximately in added assessments, just in 2 weeks, on like 5 properties. So that was pretty good. And that's pretty much all I have to report. Any questions?
So 42 will be heard, 42
Yes.
cases will be heard. How long do you anticipate that takes?
It could take, most part of the morning. We start at 10. So we'll see how long-winded, some appraisers are. You know how it goes, Mark.
And that's more than a day? Like, I mean,
No,
it's
better
less
part of
than
a
a day, I
morning.
mean?
Yeah, half a
okay.
day. Probably half a day.
Or 42?
They try to get them in and out.
I would say so.
That seems optimistic to me.
To me, too.
Not?
No, that's a small.
Yeah, the board puts them in their place
Must
right
move
away.
quick. Yeah, that's moving quick.
Well, they give their evidence, we give ours, and then the board asks questions, and then They say, okay, we'll make your decision and you'll hear from us in 2 weeks.
Okay.
I mean, some people get long-winded, you know, and they really want to argue. I mean, I can see a couple of them lasting maybe half hour, you know, but that's not the norm.
Margaret, how
Okay.
many people sit on the board?
5.
And are they local real estate agents?
No, they're all different. There's some that are real estate agents. One, Betsy Barry, she's a farmer, so she has, you know, the stuff that they need for the farming applications and stuff like that. And I think they're kind of political appointees
Oh.
by the governor.
And Vital's there with you?
Yes,
Okay,
and Mark will be there with me too.
okay.
Do you have a percentage that they normally grant the variances to?
Well, like, let's say if I, you know, if they're leaning, you know, to give them a break, they'll say to me, Margaret, did you make them an offer? And then I'll say, yes, I did. And they'll say, what was your offer? And 8 times out of 10, that's what they give the homeowner.
Anybody else?
Have a nice day.
Thanks.
Thank you, Margaret.
Construction and zoning?
Good afternoon.
Blues Brothers.
First, I'd like to model the shirt.
Looks wonderful.
The logo, it was given to us by Miranda from the Centennial logo. She just took off the Centennial and outlined it, and it came out pretty nice.
Yes, it did. Very good. Yes, it did.
So if anybody needs the borough logo, we have it locally now without shopping out of town, so.
Nice work.
You make a good model.
Okay, and after that, Michael attests to a construction office, zoning office, gets a lot of complaints on grading issues, ponding issues, and like that. So at the last planning board meeting, I discussed that we really need to come up with a grading ordinance. I just came from a meeting just now before this meeting on 105th Street with ponding issues, and both engineers for the borough and for the homeowner were there, and there are some issues. So look forward to a grading ordinance or plan coming out of planning board soon to address this, because it's a constant daily issue that we're dealing with down there.
We haven't had anything to sink our teeth into in the past, and we've tried to just get everybody to comply with nothing, and it's been somewhat successful, you know, without, but it would be nice to have something by ordinance to enforce it
Well, and
more solidly.
along those lines, and I think it was brought up at the planning board with Ray, but you didn't have the benefit of it, Mike, and our counsel, Andrew Catanese, and I think Mark will concur, is that you do have authority with regard to runoff, stormwater runoff, not being permitted to adjacent properties. So while we don't have a specific ordinance that speaks to it, and correct me if I'm wrong here at any point, Mark, you do have the authority to make sure that there is no stormwater runoff being permitted to adjacent properties. So while it's not codified in our ordinance, it's my understanding that we do have the authority to enforce that at common law.
Well, we've had engineers, you know, or our engineer at the time, when we had these issues before, come up with grading plans and tell them that they had to.
Right.
And Mark will attest to that years ago even, where they had to do a French drain system to alleviate runoff from that property onto other people's property. But I think it would be nicer if it was more fine-tuned, so we could.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, and a lot of that was after the fact, once you realize there was a problem.
Right.
Having the ordinance in place now will stop it from even happening.
Yeah.
Just a nice thing.
Proactively.
Yeah.
Correct.
So question, how can you handle, sorry, do you want
No, that's okay, go ahead.
to? Retroactively, like now, there was no ordinance in place, an ordinance goes in place, how does an adjacent property owner get relief from something that was not covered by the ordinance, but they're now suffering from it?
We would have to be able to determine that the runoff is actually coming from that other property to give us authority to try to have
Right,
them.
and the adjacent property owner always has relief in nuisance if his property is,
Yeah.
the neighbor's property impeding on his property or creating a problem. So that's always a relief. But if there's an issue with storm drainage and it's after the fact, we can look at it and come up with a plan.
In the interim, should we have a more refined or delineated process for, I think the example you brought up, Ray, is at 105th Street now, whereby Ray, when he sees an issue, notifies perhaps Jill and Mark and our engineer to make sure that, we had this, and this is sort of on the interim before we have this ordinance in place, a procedure so that everyone, including our attorneys and engineers, are on board, because this could become a gray area, and highly subjective. Is stormwater running off or is it not? So I think it behooves us to have everyone in the loop when you see a potential issue.
Mostly it's been complaint-driven, right?
Right,
You
yes,
don't-
and we
right.
have done that. I have called
Right.
Mark, went to Jill and our borough engineer, and we have, and Paul from Mott Associates is addressing the future ordinance, but yes, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know, Ray, you've gone to sites and you've seen where certain retaining walls, things like that have been put up, and if he felt that it was problematic, he has, researched it.
And I think that was the most recent one.
Yeah.
Exactly what we're doing now.
Yep.
There's-
If I recall in the past, Joanne used to get a complaint, would come to our office, we would go out and look at it, somehow, some way she got them to comply, but we would be involved to come up with a solution.
It did work. It was a little tougher to
Maybe she made
accomplish,
the
but
offers, they couldn't refuse.
Yeah.
Somehow, they always seem to comply.
Well, the bigger problem, from my perception, is we got a lot of properties that are pitched from the sidewalk to the back of the property. They're the ones that are being affected more with these newer houses going in, and they're raising the grade on the newer houses, but there's still a problem with these existing homes where it's graded towards the back, and that's where the water sits. So they've already had an issue with what was created a long time ago, and then it just gets, it's worsened by building on either side and behind it, so.
And the one we were at this morning that I just left at 2 o'clock was, there's only 0.02 of a grade difference between the backyard and the street at the curb. From the backyard, of
It's
four
this much.
different homes, four different homes that surrounded each other, and Guzzi Engineering did the grading, the actual existing grading, and it was 0.02, the difference from front to back, so it's something, and now there's a new construction going on there, it's just, yeah, So anyways, look for that coming down the road. We're going to be trying to address it and come up with some solutions to that through engineering department. And the other thing that I would have would be on code enforcement. I have them coming in at around 7:30 in the mornings, letting the contractors know and having them shut down jobs till 8 o'clock, and tell them that as of July 1st, it becomes 9 o'clock for the summer. So I am educating them. I haven't issued any citations or anything like that now, because they have been compliant to what I've been saying. So we are doing the morning thing. I'm getting them prepared for this summer. That's so you know what's coming. So that would be it for myself.
Yeah, job sites have been cleaned up significantly from what it looks like on a daily basis with the general contractors. They've been doing a pretty good job. Still, it's a little tough to try to get them to do it consistently on every job site. We're out there every day dealing with it, with the complaints, or even just driving around job to job to remind them of whatever the ordinances are. But it seems to be working pretty good right now. We'll see in the middle of the summer when it gets really jammed up. All the commercial pool yearly inspections are finished, which they had to be done by the 31st. Was that what it was? May 31st. So they're all safe, according to Ray, as far as an electrical bonding point of view. Really, last month was significantly higher with inspections, which was normal because everyone trying to get in before Memorial Day and then coming up to July 4th. Permits for dumpsters, just 3 last month, which really wasn't much because of I guess, the slowdown in new home permits we usually see that too. And it's obviously going to be, they'll probably ramp that up after they get their pilings in and do this all before July 1st. That'll change, so that's about all I have.
So, Mike, how many permits do we have for new homes?
Right now, open,
Mm-hmm,
I think probably 15.
15?
Yeah.
Is that about average for now?
It's probably a little bit more open permits than it used to be. This year's just been a lot higher than it was last year or the year before. Yeah,
We noticed.
yeah, definitely.
Mhm. Thank you.
Questions?
Anything else for these guys?
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, CFO, do you have anything?
I just have a couple minor things. I just looked at beach fees compared to 5/31 of this year to last year, and we're up 2%, or $11,045. And parking meters, we're up 28%, $8,000. And what's interesting there is last year at this time, 25% of our revenues came from kiosks, and this year, 53% of the revenues is from kiosks. So, and if I look at everybody's budget, they're on track to, we're 5/12 the way through the year, 42%, and most departments are where you would expect them to be at this time.
I think the kiosks are up because they don't give change.
Could be.
And the parking permits are up too, right?
Way up.
Yeah.
And the parking permits are way up, so there's a lot more people in town and planning on being in town.
All trying to park.
Borough Clerk?
I just have two reports. The Borough Clerk's report for the month of May. Total taken in $45,036, and in the construction office, total taken for the same amount, $30,928.
And then the last report by the tax collector. Karen, did you want me to report that, or did you want to, the tax
No,
collector? Okay.
Please.
Okay, the comparison for the prepaid taxes in 2016, there was $800,964 prepaid for the 2017 tax year, and then in 2017, for 2018 prepaid, there was $3,342,508. And the breakdown of that prepaid was for the first quarter of this year was a little over 1.5 million. The second quarter was 1.3 million. And the third quarter, which actually we haven't even billed the third quarter yet, there was 505, a little over 505,000, compared to the prior year where the first quarter was 470,000, second quarter was 323,000, and the third quarter was $2,133. So that was a big difference, and that was primarily due to the change in the IRS rulings with the limit of the $10,000 on your taxes and interest. So the collection rate 2018 versus 2017 as of the May month-end reports, 2017 collected $10,876,788. 2018 collected $9,474,000. The interest collected 2018 versus 2017. In 2017, we collected $17,105, and in 2018 so far, $20,779. And that's collector's report.
Thank you. I just like to see comparisons midway or partially midway through the year, which is why I asked Debbie to put something together. I think it's interesting to know where we are. Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome. Next would be Planning Board. I don't know if there's anything Charles wants to add.
Other than the lot grading ordinance.
Really, the lot grading ordinance is first and foremost in our site. Discussed it.
It was a quick meeting on the because we just met on the 14th, and it's actually the first time we've had the two meetings in a month, I think all year, and it was quick because we had an application that we did not, we hear after all because it wasn't timely in some of the information. We discussed the lot grading ordinance and we adjourned rather quickly. And we're scheduled to meet on Monday to hear that same application. Did you want to, do you want to do discussion or do you want to go through the,
What are your thoughts, Jill? Do we want to just do the discussions at the very end, let the employees?
Yeah, I think we can do the
Yeah.
Public Works and
Yeah,
Utilities
why don't we-
report
why don't we do
fairly
that?
quickly.
I don't
and then we
think-
know how much time you have too.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
the changes in the resolution for Go Green will involve a whole lot. There's just some issues that have come up, and I'd like to enhance it. The Hobie Cat Beach is something else that we have to talk about, so maybe we should just go into Public Works.
Thank you, Grant.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I got to organize myself here. Thought I was going to go away, but not having to do it today. Just kidding. Everybody got their reports from last month?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Did everybody read them?
Yes. I saw that water use was down a little.
Yes, it is. That is photographs of the 83rd Street ADA ramp that our guys just completed. Somewhere in here. And that's my report. I have my report here, I believe. I'm just trying to find it. Might have left it on my desk. Oh, there it is. Try to make this short and sweet. Like I just handed it to council, is our ADA ramp that we just completed, similar to what we did at 92nd Street. We're dealing with Army Corps about extending that ramp down towards the beach with a solid surface. So we're working on getting their approvals to continue that ramp all the way to the bottom of the dune face. Weekend storms have washed large amounts of marsh grass and trash onto our beaches. Our guys have been out there the last couple of days trying to open up all of our crossovers. The weekend storm also blew large amounts of sand across the accesses, and we actually have guys out there with shovels trying to clean up all the ADA ramps. It's a significant amount of wind coming off the ocean this weekend. Let's see, Buildings Department has 4 of the 6 concession stands are on the beach right now. We cannot put the ones on the south end right now because of the tide issues that we're having. One of the 4 that are out right now actually got washed out underneath it. So I'm concerned about what's going on with these tides that we're experiencing. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that and decide when to put the last 2 stands out on the south end. Let's see. Grounds crew have hung all the plants, hanging plants, potted plants, the urns are out, the pole plants are out for the summer. They're wintering every day, fertilizing once a week. I think everything looks pretty good so far. I'm not sure if everybody's had a chance to look at everything. The promenade is
Looks
up.
very nice.
It's good for, yep.
We did some adjustments on the promenade because of this weekend's winds did some damage to them. So we dropped them down a couple of feet off of the height of the dune, try to get a little bit better survival rate on those. Trash department is working on a full summer schedule right now with a twice a week pickup. Our schedules and collections and regulations are on our webpage. If you go to the main borough webpage and click on the Public Works, our schedule is there. If anybody has any questions. The water and sewer crew continues to work with the utilities. Gas company is finishing up today, from what I heard from our inspector. So they're gonna be out of town. They will not be back to pave all their patchwork until the fall. So if you get any calls here at Borough Hall, that's the plan, is for them to come back in the fall. So hopefully that'll get completed sooner than later. Lots of markouts being done by water and sewer, a lot of installations on the new homes, like Mike said, they're trying to get everything finished up. We just finished the project on 81st and 82nd Street on 3rd Avenue, which disrupted traffic a lot today. We had to put sewer and water into that project, which I believe will probably be completed by the end of the week, and they'll be moving in. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have. There is damage to the 105th Street bulkhead. We believe it was done by contractors parking their rigs for doing bulkheads up against it. They have sheared off the end of the 32-inch duckbill. We have an emergency request in right now to have that done.
Yes.
It's going to cost us around $27,000, plus we also have 2 sinkholes on that bulkhead that need to be repaired. We also found another damage to the 88th Street bulkhead. We're going to have to pull that sheet and replace that. We found that yesterday. Somebody pierced the bulkhead, and it's got a 2x3 hole in it. So that's about it for my report. I don't want to step on anything the engineers already talked about. I do have one thing for Mrs. Lane. I would like to give you copies of both of our permits for our chlorine changeout. We've been working on this for, 3 years now to try to get this done, and we finally got our permits.
Fantastic. Thank you, Grant. Thank you.
Frame worthy.
One of the things, bulk trash, don't forget, is May 14th. So make sure you tell everyone.
It already was May 14th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm behind the time.
We passed
The
that.
next one's September 17th. Also, would you explain to everyone the solid waste disposal of the asphalt and concrete, that we have 92 tons?
Yes.
Where's all that asphalt and concrete coming from?
It's coming from our utilities installations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not from the street, not from people putting it on the street?
No.
And having
No.
you pick it up?
When our utilities crew goes out and does a new install, we have to tear the old asphalt up and put new asphalt down.
Because we didn't have any last year. Now we have 92 tons this year.
For this month, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. A lot of work being done.
It's a lot.
A lot of new homes going up. 50-some permits this year for new homes.
Okay.
Just a side comment, I'm not sure if I ever took the time to recognize you for these reports. They're all encompassing, and they're comprehensive, and it leaves room for no questions. Thank you.
Grant,
Thank you.
did we put the money in the budget for this?
We did not. We did not anticipate the 80th Street issue that we have. We don't have enough contact time, which is, once the chemical is injected to the water system, it has to stay in the system for a certain amount of time before we can actually put it into the public water system. That's what our water tower and our reservoir does right now here at 96th Street. At 80th Street, we have direct injection, which needs less contact time for chlorine. But if we go to sodium hypochloride, which is a tablet system, we need more piping down there in order to increase the contact time.
So it'll be in next year's budget.
I would hope so. We have until 2023 on this permit to get the work done.
Okay.
So,
How do we increase contact time again? The volume of the container?
Yes.
To be bigger?
yes, right now we have a 2,000-gallon tank inside of the 80th Street plant.
Right.
And the chlorine is injected into that tank along with the raw water. It sits there for a certain amount of time and then is pushed into the system. So I'm going to be talking with the engineer and the CFO and the administrator about coming up with a plan. We do need to raise 80th Street Station because of the last storms, especially Sandy, where we came within 1 block of getting floodwaters into the station, which would have contaminated the well, and that is a concern of mine that has been since Sandy, so.
So this is a major
With this
issue.
happening now, with this upgrade that we have to do at 80th Street, that would probably be our best bet, to do the whole station at one time. And what,
It's always a hitch.
what the engineer wanted us to do is put the pipe out in the parking lot, and I don't want to do that to the surrounding neighborhoods and the people in the area. I don't want to do that. I would rather contain it so it looks like it belongs in that area, just like it does right now. Any questions?
Thank you, Grant.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Anything new, utilities?
No, we did not meet since the last report, and I think we covered everything in that last report with the road program Mark had talked about, and yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
Can I just want to ask the engineer a question. It kind of follows on what Grant was saying. The flood mitigation, I mean, we're working on the 93rd Street station, sewage and stormwater pump stations, and I would think that eventually we're going to end up down at 80th Street, somewhere in that vicinity with another pump station, like Phase 2 of the project. So is what Grant just alluded to with
The rest of
the water handling stations down there now, is that something that should be coordinated looking forward, so that we don't build one facility and then come along a year later and start adding on to it? I mean, is this some,
Yeah, if we're talking storm sewer related, I believe you're having a storm sewer master plan completed, so that would be theoretically addressed in that document.
well, you see where I'm coming from with this. I don't want to build one facility and 2 years later find out we got to, take half of it apart to build something else. So where does the coordination get tied in on this? You know what I mean, Grant? Like
The station we're talking about is
drinking
our
water.
drinking water.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
We have to decide on the design of what we're going to do and where we're going to actually put a pumping station in that area. So they're working from 99th Street to 96th this year. They're going to do 98th, 96th to 89th Street the year after that, and then we have to continue down towards 86th.
Right,
and to
right. So eventually, there's going to be a lot of things constructed down in, I don't want to make it sound worse than it will be.
Yes.
But, in that area where the marina is. So
And I would,
Yes.
we
And
need
that-
to be,
And with the possibility of open space with the marina, we also have to talk about possibly maintaining some space in that area if we do have to do some kind of pumping
right.
operations.
So, I mean, it just all has to be coordinated. We
Yes.
cannot-
I mean, and that would
So we're all
be
aware
part
of
of the
that.
master plan as well.
Okay.
Yes, yes. It has never had any flooding issues, as well as our yard, the elevation of the yard and the raised stone parking for the trailers and floating docks. It's the only thing that didn't get flooded out at Sandy down in that area.
That's it for utilities.
Okay. Back to Mrs. Lane.
Okay, how about Go Green? Go Green was initially started in 2012. You all have the resolutions in your work packet. And at that time, our focus was on water conservation. And the committee's done a rather good job. We've made some slides, but that's still going to be our main focus. But most of the Go Green community organizations that are established work primarily with any type of sustainability in New Jersey, and primarily in recycling. So what we would like to do is sort of twofold with this resolution, is to change the focus to encompass all of it, so that we are truly a sustainable, go green community committee. And that being said, we would need to work with both Public Works and Utilities in order to accomplish this. When this was initially set up, it was set up for 3 volunteers from the community who must be residents. We also allowed for consultants to come in on a whatever basis we wanted to add to whatever project we were working on. The flexibility is there. However, we now have some interest from other areas who want to be on the Go Green Committee but cannot because they are not a resident. However, they do own a business in town. So our thought is, rather than restricting it to just residents, we should do residents/property owners/business owner. It should not be anyone actually living or just being outside Stone Harbor, because their interest is not there. So that then we can be even more flexible in what we want to do. So those are the 2 things that we would really like to accomplish. I don't know that we have to enhance the number of people, possibly go up to 4. I wouldn't make it too unwieldy right now because we do have that flexibility of bringing in consultants. And it was working very well. We had the VOTEC, horticultural VOTEC teacher from the VOTEC school, and she was excellent, and we lost her. She passed away, but we had people like that. We've had landscapers come in, so we've had some good consultants come in, and I would like to keep that door open. So that's basically what we're looking to do.
And you still have Public Works, the director with the utilities being part of that committee?
Right, yes, the Director of Public Works, both Grant, Rocky, and Joe Hughes is supposed to be on there, but he hasn't been coming lately. We do have Miranda come in, as she's free to come in, primarily because she's our public relations person. She does our videos, she has a lot of good suggestions for marketing, what we want to do. And she's a big help, along with Kim, and we don't ever want to lose Kim, to do the Green Fair and so forth. So we've got a really great group. We have lost one, the first resignation we've had since 2012, and it's because he has moved out of town. So he's no longer able to be on, so we'll have to fill that spot, and that's why I'm saying I don't know if we want to keep it at 3 or move it to 4, maybe put the flexibility of having 4 in case we do find another interested person.
Yeah, you could always do up to 4. Gives you the
Could say
flexibility.
up to. Yeah.
And the chair of utilities is still the liaison?
Well,
I am, but Karen so graciously agreed to be the
So do we want to,
spokeswoman.
do we want to change that wording?
or change it to, I don't know, the person who's interested, the
You could just say member of council.
member of council. Member of council would be the liaison.
Yeah, why don't we change it?
Yeah.
Is the Director of Public Works also the recycling coordinator, or is that who's our recycling
He is.
coordinator?
That's Craig. That's Craig. Isn't it? Isn't that Craig Reeves? And he's been coming also
And
since
he
we
comes,
take
okay.
on.
It's
It
great.
is you? Okay, so we have the recycling
It's you?
coordinator there in the
Grant.
Director of Public Works, okay,
Okay. But we've been having Craig Reeves come also,
okay.
time to time.
So rather than what you said, having everybody from Stone Harbor, if they own a business, they live here, or what was the third one?
Own
Re-
property.
Own a
Resident,
property.
homeowner, business
But-
owner?
But say somebody sells their business, so then they would be eliminated from
They would be eliminated.
the committee.
Just as the individual who has resigned, he's moved out of town. I think you have to keep it, I don't know, is that legal, that we have to keep it?
Like a vested
Well, I
interest?
just, yeah, I
I
think,
like, the
that's a
vested
reason.
interest is so important.
Anybody? Thoughts?
Are we all
Okay,
right with that?
sounds good.
That sounds
Okay.
appropriate.
All right.
Resident, so,
This was
okay,
Short and sweet. So,
Okay. So that's just something that can be redone and presented as a resolution like that at our next meeting?
Right.
Okay.
And the next,
Okay.
who's that going to be? Not me.
Who's Hobie Cat Beach? Jill?
You want me to start?
Public
We
safety.
had a, we had a rather hurried meeting on the beach. I believe it was the Tuesday before last at high tide. The Public Safety Committee, Mantora Gallagher, and Josie Rich, and myself, Jill Gouger, Craig Reeves, and Sandy Basacco, to discuss the future of the Hobie Cat Beach relative to the condition of the beach this year because of the winter storms. There's some concern from a public safety perspective about having the Hobie Cat Beach this summer. And I have to admit, I've never been there in the summer, so I've never seen the Hobie Cat Beach operate. I don't know. I know that Sandy is free to come up and speak his piece, but he has some safety, public safety concerns. And I don't know whether there are things that we can address going forward. I mean, I for one, I would like to do everything that we can not to close that Hobie Cat Beach. I'd like to see it in operation. But at the same time, there are some concerns I think we have to address. One being, I guess, and I'm only speaking from hearsay, because like I said, I've never seen it in operation, but people, evidently beachgoers and swimmers, have an affinity for operating right in front of the Hobie Cat Beach, which I guess can cause some issues. Sandy, correct? Swimmers and sunbathers in the area that's marked out for Hobie Cat users.
Sandy?
Yeah.
Could you come up just to the podium and then into the microphone, we'll have it for the minutes?
I'm not opposed to the boats being down there. I think as long as it's realistic. My concerns related to the beach being eroded away are the boats will have to be taken off of the beach probably on a regular basis. You will have private vehicles down there over and over. Just the moon tides alone, you're talking about 6 times in the next 3 months. That doesn't include any onshore flows or any types of storms or anything. And if you have 40 boats down there, there are 2 vehicles on the beach for each boat for each storm. So you have 80 vehicles on the beach every time they have to come off.
Why does it take 2 vehicles?
Well, you have to take it off and then put it back on. So every time one boat for one event, it's 2 vehicles on the beach. And the beach is very small. The other concern is the beach is very small. There isn't a lot of room for the actual people to sit on the beach. I mean, we had a lifeboat that we keep on the northern side of that vehicle ramp float away 2 nights ago. And that part is higher than the whole side where the poles are located. And the tide came up and just floated it away. And that was just a one-day wind event that did that. So all of the boats would have been in trouble. It's just the first week of June. So again, I would like to see them there if it was feasible, but there isn't a lot of space for people. The boats are going to have to come on and off probably several times.
Do we regulate when, okay, if there's a storm coming and it's posted that there's a storm coming, do we regulate when they can go pull these things off? I mean, they pull them off before 10 in the morning?
It should be before 10 or after 5.
Or after 5.
Yes.
So we do control that aspect of it. And then I asked Suzanne today and weren't sure the answer. We don't require that these gentlemen or ladies have insurance. Is that,
Is it part of the
is that
permit?
in there anywhere on the permitting process?
Just the hold harmless, right? I think it's just the hold harmless.
I would like to see.
Okay, the hold harmless. Now, if part of the problem is the Hobie Cats interfering with sunbathers or swimmers, you know, if we have an unsafe situation, I think you said it to me out there last Tuesday, that a sailcraft coming through the swimmers. Now,
That occasionally happens, it's not, it's
So-
not necessarily, you know, it happens through the summer. I wouldn't say that it was any of these gentlemen that are doing that, but it does occur. My biggest thing is just that this year, the beach is very small.
right,
That's really my concern is that the tide is going to, it was up right there today. I was down there this afternoon, and I don't think that it's going to change.
so your major concern, though, is them getting these things on and off the beach?
From a
when-
safety
When
perspective.
they're worried, okay.
It's a
so-
space for the public and the vehicles that would be down there constantly.
But
That's
could,
really,
is it, I mean, is it feasible to
That's not,
mark off that section of the beach as sailcraft only? No swimming or sunbathing permitted? Keep
Well,
people out of their way and keep them out of people's way?
well,
Would that help
the
the
ramp comes
situation?
right down in
Mhm.
front of the area. It's very small now, and that's the area right behind the lifeguard stand where the public would, you know, generally will.
Well, I know, I went up there today, and I had to chuckle to myself because all the bathers on the beach were in front of your docks. Nobody was behind a lifeguard, which I thought was kind of odd, but.
Behind the docks.
Behind the
poles.
Oh.
Yeah, this picture shows everybody right in the middle of where the
Yeah.
Hobie Cats would be if they were
Yeah.
there.
So would that, if we signed it off, would that help anything? That's not your concern, you're not worried about that, I guess?
I just don't
Well,
think there's
there's
enough
not-
space for
yeah.
all
From the
this to
picture
go
that's
on.
being
Yeah,
passed
if you-
around,
if
there's
you-
not enough
right.
space for the boats.
If you look at the picture, and please, I know some of these Hobie Cat people because that's the beach that I go to, so I'm one that loves it there. But I will say that right now, knowing the dynamics of the beach and knowing what these guys do, because it's fantastic to watch, realistically, where you see those poles, that's where the boats will get tied at night. Realistically, I don't know what the tide is in that picture, high, low, or in between. At high tide, there is no beach. They wouldn't even be able to pull themselves out. So if you try to mix people in with this and say people can't be down there, I don't know who in the world is going to do that, because everybody wants to share the beach. There is a good group of these guys that know exactly what they're doing, and they take care of their boats, and they go out and they sail, and they all take care of each other, and it really is neat to see. Realistically, after going down there and watching it this winter, I personally feel that it's just not going to work. You're not going to be able to have the space. When those guys go out, unless you have never seen it, which it's wonderful to watch, they don't usually go out straight. They usually take the wind wherever it goes. They know what they're doing. They bring them back in, and they've got to land on the beach, and they do it fine when there's sand there to do it. There's not a place to land at high tide if they go out and come back. And I'm sorry, I'm being realistic. I want you guys down there because it is a great beach, but I just personally have watched this and don't see how this year, right now, we can mix the Hobie Cats with the people, because they.
Well, how about no people? That's
Oh,
what Ray's
I don't know
suggestion
how you're
is,
gonna- How are you going to tell somebody they can't sit on the beach?
with signs saying, saying crafts only.
they have to move further.
They have-
And they would go north, and the
Or
boaters
further
are to the
north.
right, but you can't, like, set up camp there, so to
There's,
speak.
there's 40, there's 40 other blocks of beach. Why do people have to be right there?
Exactly.
There's no, there's no
Well.
good reason for it. And as far as the boats being there in bad weather, and this may sound crass, but it's their boats. I mean, they're taking the risk, they're taking the liability for it. I mean, if their boat gets destroyed, it gets destroyed. I mean, it's not on the borough. And we're looking at not hurting anybody. So if we cordon that beach off and say, listen, this is a sailcraft beach. You can go south of here toward the point, you can go north of here toward Avalon. There's plenty of beach. This is for people to get their boats in and out of. I think it's something that's been going on long enough in the town that I would just hate to just stop it. So, I mean, I'm open to suggestions on how we can accommodate.
I totally agree that I certainly want the Hobie Cats to be there. As Josie's been here much longer than I've been only here 26 years permanently. So I've gone to that beach. It's a thrill to watch you guys go out for your children, for your grandchildren and all that. But now, with everything being said, I think we should move the bathers down another beach and just have you have your boats there for this year. Doesn't mean it can't change.
You mean the entire 122nd Street beach or just to the south when you come over
Just
there?
to
The
the south
entrance.
on the ramp, yes.
Does it get any wider down the southern end?
No.
No.
It maintains the same width
Going
from,
south, it's digging in a little more.
It's
Yeah,
worse there.
It's worse toward the last jetty. And both jetties are completely exposed now, which is another thing off the subject. We need to get signs on them because they're green and slimy and very interesting to people. who
would
don't know what they're doing.
lessening the number permitted do it if you gave more space between each boat and how many are, that wouldn't make anything? Because we removed them from the north side.
Those rock jetties were exposed a long time ago.
Yeah, they're out more than they were last year, though.
Have you guys operated in those beach conditions as they are now? Or is this the worst that you've seen?
This is probably the worst right now.
Uh-huh.
It's not too different from this time last year. This time last year, Memorial Day, the water was all the way up like it is now. By 4th of July, there was about 15 yards of dry beach at high tide. As we got further into July and August, there was 40 yards or more. I mean, the summer's when the beach naturally builds back up. That's just the dynamic of the beach.
So do we just wait?
Revisit it. I would delay it and revisit it in a month, see how it,
They're shaking their heads. May we hear?
Well, if you could come up and just say, if you could come up to the podium and then that way Carrie can get your name for the minutes and be able to listen to it.
Hi, Jack Kelleher, I live at 11810 3rd. So a couple things. First of all, in terms of will we need to pull the boats off the beach, Sandy's right. Most people roll the boats off the beach. We don't pull a trailer down there. You roll it off the beach and put it in the parking lot. There are some, if you want to put restrictions about trailers, I think we would certainly be open to that, to do that. So that's one thing. In terms of, the size of the beach, it is smaller. We've got, we've been sailing for 30 years, I think, 40 years here. We've only closed the beach twice. That's now and 2 years ago. The beach has been as small as it is in the past, and we've operated, it has stayed open. So I feel that we could put the boats on right now and not really have an issue. If the tide comes up to the boats, that's okay, they're tied up. It's only when you get heavy wave action when you have to worry about that and pull it off. Sunday was a pretty bad storm, and even on Sunday storm with a nor'easter, 25-mile-an-hour winds, 35-mile-an-hour gusts, the boats would have been okay. So it can weather normal tides, moon tides included. It's just when we get the major storms, we're going to have to pull it off. So from my perspective, I think all of us are willing to put our boats on now. And as you pointed out, it's our liability. I mean, the city, the borough has no liability for any damage done to our boat. So not really sure we need to wait.
So to educate us, you can get those boats on and off without bringing a vehicle onto the beach?
Sure, we roll them off. We put them on beach wheels and just roll them up and down, so. If
Could
that's the
restrict it
standard-
to that, no
Sure.
vehicles permitted on the beach?
Have you gone
Restrict
down,
that.
Jack, and looked at that ramp? That ramp is pretty steep. You can pull one up that hill?
Well, not by myself, so it takes about 3 or 4 guys to do it, but we do that together. We all kind of pitch in and move the boats off there. So if the safety concern is bringing vehicles onto the beaches with trailers, I think we have a good solution for that. Just, no, we can't put it on the beach, the trailers and cars will roll in.
Isn't it true that the beach only has been this much of a problem in the last 2 years because we have not been able to replenish that beach because of the stringent demands put on us by the Army Corps using that site? So we haven't been able, when we replenish the rest of the beach, to replenish that, so it's getting smaller and smaller.
The replenishments have helped, but, you know, Jim's been there for 40 years. It's been worse, and the beach has remained open.
And what was it, just, if you could repeat what you said about what it was and then how it built up over the summer? Just the timeline again?
I'm James Hart, 227 119th Street. Yeah, my brother and I typically put our boats on 4th of July weekend, okay? We used to, in our younger days, put it on Memorial Day weekend. But what we found over the last couple of years, it works out great for us. Memorial Day, water's up pretty high, just like we're all saying, okay? It's just like...
Just like you see now?
Just like you see now, right?
Okay.
By 4th of July, usually it's like there's enough beach for people in front of the boats and also to put the boats in. And I can't tell you what it's going to be like 4th of July this year, but I can tell you that as a regular recurring theme, the beach builds up over the summer months. We build it up over the summer and we lose it in the late fall and in the spring sometime.
Okay.
Craig Reeves said a month ago, he was talking to Jill in her office, and I happened to be there, and then he said it again last Tuesday, that the bulk of that sand is right, he said at low tide, you can see it. It's right
offshore.
It's right there.
There's no doubt.
20,
So,
what is it, 270,000 cubic yards sitting there? Come on back.
Go out there and start pulling it back in.
Because it's literally sitting right out there.
If we take you up on that offer, no vehicles on the beach, does that help you, Sandy, at all? I mean, as far as we're more comfortable with?
Yeah, get a nice photo of that one.
We'll be afloat, right.
But again, it's their liability.
Do we need to consider signage in front of those docks?
Well, let's
I
hear
call 'em
from this
docks, not
gentleman,
docks,
too.
but
They're posts.
Posts.
See if you've got,
They wish it was
you
a
got
dock.
something good to say.
Bob Colton, 9811
That's the
Second
answer.
Avenue. I think one of the difficulties is we don't know as a group, we're not an organized group that has everybody's, we don't know what boats are and what slips necessarily. Many of us do know what slips or what boats, and we don't have the phone numbers or the emails of people, and that's a difficulty. Because if we had those things, we would call each other and make sure that those boats were off when it was, a problem. The other thing is, sometimes people complain about the clanging of, if you've ever heard the clanging.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not a part of the application. I think some things could be added to the application where people have to tie their boats up properly so that the neighbors don't get bothered by the clanging or just the people. And I think Sandy needs to have more ability to police the people that might do stupid stuff. Do you know what I mean? Most of us are really good, but some people have given Sandy a difficult time by what they've done.
Well, we could make the clerk just said to me they could handle in the office getting that contact information, emails and phone numbers, and any sort of safety violation. If you see the boat, you see the slip, we can very easily just pull the permit.
Yeah.
And if on Sandy's say that there's somebody that's operating in an unsafe manner, he says that, we say, this is a privilege, so we pull the permit.
And we do have their information. Carrie gathers that on the application.
Okay. And we make sure we get emails and phone numbers on everybody.
One of them or a couple of them will call me and say,
And
hey,
cell phones.
so-and-so's and so-and-so's slip, I don't have their information. Can you let me know? We want to help them get their boats off the slip.
Maybe we can get a list together, though.
Yep, we have emails, phone numbers.
Could I say just one more thing?
Sure.
It's kind of ironic, but when you look at that ramp that's down there, when I started sailing down there back in the 90s, the bulkhead that, when things got bad, we picked boats up and put it on top of the bulkhead when it got really bad. That bulkhead's still there. It's 40 feet behind the current dune line. So we picked up 40 feet worth of beach okay? And in doing so, we created a situation where we dump replacement sand in front of that, and quite frankly, the law of nature says it can't stay there, because we've already created something behind it that's not natural, even though it looks good. But that's just the dynamic.
I have a question for you gentlemen, and I guess there's one lady. And I think it's fair to ask, we have 40 slips down there, and how many do we rent this year?
We had 60, we made it 40 this year.
Okay, but
And
did we
all
rent
40
all of
all 40
them? In your experience in being kind, how many of those boats do you really think there's serious people there that really take them out during a summer? How many are just sort of maybe there resting, I'll put it that way, and then you all that come, is there a good dozen, 15 of you?
That's a good point. About half are kind of avid sailors.
Yes.
Others, we sometimes don't even see them move off the beach.
Right, they become a storage area.
And their boat just sits there?
Yes, and other things.
But I would think we could regulate the other things
We tried, I think, but I don't think we worked as hard as we
hard
could.
enough. Maybe we need to
It
work.
does.
like,
It becomes-
Are people putting kayaks and boxes
Yes,
and
all
stuff,
of
and
it.
not a boat, period?
No,
Like
the
there's-
boat's there. That
But the
holds all-
boat's there also, okay.
The boat is the basis of it. And that's why I believe that if there was a way of legally and properly finding the ones that really are the ones that are doing the sailing, seriously sailing, and enjoying it, and the ones that you see out,
One way may be by regulating what can actually stay on the beach. So you just let
Well,
the boat stay on the beach,
it should only be the boat
and just
and
the
the
boat. So if somebody's putting a boat there and then storing all kinds of other items for their beach pleasure, like chairs and anything they're putting underneath, you can't have anything there but a boat, then maybe that
Then I think you'd get the
start
right
to
people
eliminate
there.
it.
Would it
Well, that
help
should
to-
be
Would it help to
relatively
cut
easy to
the
do.
number of permits issued?
Well, that's where we've already cut it by 30%?
Yeah, but he just said,
Yeah, actually, about when I first started sailing 10 years ago, there were 80 slips. And then I think it
Then it went to
got down
60.
60.
Now it's 40.
Now it's down to 40.
So we keep getting smaller.
do you think all 40 get used?
No, he said.
I'm sorry,
40
what'd you
don't
say?
get used.
I couldn't hear you.
She asked if
Do you-
all 40 get
All 40
used.
get used. Do they use their boats?
No,
No, there are some people that don't use it. I would say half are out there sailing almost every weekend. There's others that you might see only go out once or twice a year or not at all.
Why don't we make it 25?
Well, I think
Or,
you're
no,
gonna-
you
I
can't
don't
do
know
for
how
this
you
year.
would select
That's the problem.
Yeah.
We had a
Yeah.
lottery this year.
sailors.
They were already been chosen.
Jack, isn't there a movement among some of the Hobie Cat owners to move to Wildwood now?
Yeah, there are. So 2 years ago, when we didn't have a place to go, a bunch of us moved to Seattle. And some people stayed. And now Jack Morey's opening up a beach in Wildwood. And there's 25 slips, and there's going to be people move there. And we'll probably lose some of them as well, unfortunately. So, the beach is going to get smaller through attrition there, just with all these other options that people have. But I can say, for most people here, if we have our choice, Stone Harbor is the place we would like to be. It's just ideal sailing ports.
I wonder if we could reach out to everybody and say there'd be new regulations, would you be renewing yours? Or would you be moving, and if they're moving, we don't replace that spot? Know what I mean?
Well, they're all
Rick,
rented this year.
They're all going this year.
No, what I'm saying is then they might not go based on restrictions. They may opt to go somewhere else. If you can come up to the podium just so.
I'd like to help answer your question.
Okay.
I was on the Wildwood Beach Patrol many, many years ago. I stopped over there yesterday, talked to the captain of Beach Patrol, Ed Gillespie. The Morey plan is a Morey idea. I asked Ed specifically if he's been contacted from a beach safety perspective on what it would take to accommodate 10, 20, 30 boats in the middle of Wildwood. And he said he hasn't even been asked to officially comment on what it would take in terms of closing beaches and so forth. So the idea that there's slips over in Wildwood, ready and waiting for people to just roll in, it's an idea right now. It's not a formulated plan that's has any meat on those bones.
Okay, so it might be
Okay.
something in the future, but you don't anticipate that.
Ed
people
says
will
they've
go
been talking about it for over 15 years.
there. Okay.
All right. Okay.
I'll just weigh in real quick. I think the Hobie Cats are longstanding tradition. I love seeing them there. I think it's to limit their access, given what we're faced with right now, would be premature. I think we should do whatever it takes within reason to keep them there and keep them operating and make accommodations for them. This is a bad year, other years not so bad, and it needs to stay there. It's a Stone Harbor tradition. I'd hate to see that. I don't know that I'm in favor of paring down the number of spaces either. I am in favor of putting regulations in place that are going to make it unavailable as a campsite, if you will, so that I would love to see 80 true sailors there launching. That would be awesome. That would be really awesome. I'd love to
could
see
be an
the number of spots go back to where it was and encourage true sailors to come launch their boats on a regular basis. So I think we should do whatever it takes to keep this in place this year and now.
I think it might behoove us if we, at the end of this season, ask for a couple representatives from this group to meet with us to make our application a little bit more stringent, a little bit safer, a little bit more boater-friendly, swimmer-friendly, Stone Harbor-friendly. So I think they're the ones who are seeing what can be done and what should be done, and they're willing to do that, but they need to tell us because they're out in those boats every day. So if they lend their expertise to us just to tighten up our application, I think we could benefit.
I would agree.
There's no doubt that we would like to be in Stone Harbor. It's really so much better. But Maury is getting 25 permits for people to take SUVs on the beach, so they can actually drive in Salinger Avenue underneath the ramp and take your Hobie right next to your boat. You can take your sails and all the other equipment off. So that's becoming attractive to people. And I don't think that we want to let that happen.
Is it your understanding that that's going to happen this summer?
It's already happened.
It has?
Yeah, I mean, 2 of us have permits already
Okay. For Wildwood?
for Wildwood to drive our SUVs there. And
So if we were to do it, and I hear what you're saying, Mantor, and I'm thinking, but if we were to do things differently this year and reach out to every permit holder and tell them at this point, the vehicles can't go on the beach, nothing can be stored other than your Hobie Cat itself, no people there, and say this is what the regulations are going to be.
Yeah, but the no people there is not just these guys. Now, the no people is the public.
Right.
So, you know, I mean,
Do we-
if these gentlemen are notified that it's, and ladies, are notified that it's, you know, your boats only and no vehicles on the beach during the season, I think that addresses, and then Sandy, you should also address in that Sandy's has the authority to pull a permit or recommend
Right.
that a permit be pulled.
Any
if
unsafe
Somebody's not.
behavior or, right.
Right. And now the other issue, though, is do we want to restrict bathing / sunbathing on that stretch?
Because the bathing would continue right there at 122nd Street. We're talking the boats going out more 123rd. I don't think we want to restrict the bathing at 122nd.
Also, what you're
No,
saying is that
not at
as a
all.
rule.
Oh, okay, you mean down, right, okay.
They don't swim.
But as
They don't swim in front of the boats, but they sit. It's the
As a
sunbathing.
rule, they're saying that the beach almost corrects itself by July 4th. And if
Right.
that happens, then we don't have that issue any longer.
Right. So those other minor restrictions we're talking about and monitor, being the vehicles and what can be, and would you like to say something?
Hi, my name is Deidre Michelli, and I've had the pleasure of sailing off this beach for 23 years. It's where I learned how to sail a Hobie on the ocean. Way back when, we only left our boats on the beach, and we maybe strapped a couple chairs on top of our boats. And then Rob Sterling and I started leaving our sails on the boat. Then I got married, went away for a couple years, came back, and all of a sudden, there's like a parking lot down there. There's boxes anchored on the boats and all this going on, and I don't know how that happened. It doesn't need to be. You know, you just have to have it up back to the car. But can we, you know, keeping the sails on the boat, lanced down and secured, that's not something that should be a problem, as long as it can stay on your boat, one. And two, there's always a flag for the swimmers, so we know where we can sail back to, and they know where they can sail from. And the wind has changed direction, and the sand is actually blowing over the dunes now back to the beach. So it shouldn't be a problem to, I don't know why those boxes are on the beach. They shouldn't
Can't
be
we
there.
have a
So
list
we do
from
that.
them, a list from you saying what you would like just on top of your boat? Like your sails?
Your
or-
sails.
I know, but is
Your
somebody
beach chairs,
taking
If you can
notes?
leave them on your boat, that's fine, but anything that can
Trust her.
blow
She
away
knows
or.
what she's talking about.
Right, I mean,
No, I know
I mean,
that. But
20
I
years
was-
ago,
you
we
misunderstood.
would never have left a box, or I was mortified when
Yeah.
I came back from having babies and, no,
That happened very slowly.
I don't know how that
However,
happened.
as long as
It doesn't-
Carrie
it
has
doesn't need to
the
be. Carry it back to your
contact
car.
information, we can contact current owners now, send them a letter and say, these are our rules for this year. Next year, of course, it'll be part of the contract. But we need to warn them and say, if you do not abide by these rules, you can lose your permit. Sandy Pasaco has the ability to rescind your contract.
Yeah.
So-
Yep.
Yeah.
Circumstances mean, say we have to do this, we contact them, we tell them what additional rules are in place while we monitor.
But we knew about, last year, we had heard about coolers and things like that
Right.
that were adding up. Maybe they're the kind of things that we, instead of eliminating them, because they'll say, okay, no cooler, but I could put this. Nothing other than your boat, your sails, whatever
If you
the,
could leave it on your boat and latch it down so it's not blowing away, that should be fair game. Anything outside of your boat,
And no vehicles
What?
permitted on the beach.
but we do have to have our wheels attached to our boats, because we have to get them from the sand into the water.
right.
Because,
Well, that's, I understand.
Okay.
okay, that's part of our boat, all right?
So maybe going towards what you had said, Mantura, is before we decide what the letter goes out, a couple of you folks consult and say, this is what your letter should include.
Right.
Right.
That you need to tell us.
You need to tell
We're
us,
not
right? We would
sailors.
ask you to tell us, and so that's something we could do. Does that sound like things we can live with,
Because
everyone?
it's very clear to us that you're willing to police yourselves.
Absolutely.
So as long as you're willing to be allies of ours, to let us know what is wrong that goes on, if we know that, we can police it ourselves with your help. But we need that information because we don't have that.
Okay.
Good.
Sandy, does it sound like things that you can work with?
Well,
But that's their problem.
Okay.
One last thing. And I asked some people about this. Are there people who come down just for the day and drag a boat down there and try to launch it unpermitted? So that's not an issue then? That's very rare, okay.
you
All
wanted to say something?
No, all I was going to say is, we appreciate you all reconsidering this, and love the openness that you all have in terms of considering different options. We'll take a lead of putting together, my name's Deb Garber, I've been on the beach with Jim since, well, he's the 70s, I'm the 80s, the early 80s doing it. And we'll take a lead of putting together our rules and regulations. We've actually been talking about this probably for 7 years or so, and we've started to see some of the changes within the beach. We'll put together a list of all the rules and regulations that we're proposing. We'll forward it to Carrie, I would presume, and then you can review it and then give us any feedback on it. And then we can utilize that as our rules and regs for this year and get out there. And we also do a lot, and I think having the list of the names of the people, Carrie, is absolutely going to help.
Well, what we need to do is get it to Jill, and then she can consult with the appropriate committee, the Public Safety Committee, and make sure that everything's on board.
That information.
Yeah, and then we can go, so, and then, right, we can go from there. So if you make sure that, Jill, you need to have contact information for Jack, and I think we can get it from there and kind of get started on it as quickly as possible, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've done a lot of contacting people in advance of storms through the Facebook page, through other communication means. We've even talked to people and pulled their boats off the beach with their permission and things like that. So we take a really active interest in this.
And some
Okay.
of us are real lucky that we're here all summer long, and we can be a little bit more active with that. So again,
Okay.
really appreciate you reconsidering this. This is a huge part of why many of us own property around this area.
And if I may suggest, I think what you're doing is absolutely correct. Keep it simple.
Yes, here's what's allowed,
Right, and that's it.
that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, nothing open to interpretation.
So,
And then hopefully we'll have 270,000 more cubic yards of sand on our beach.
so,
Our fingers crossed on that.
so it's open now.
So it's open now?
It's open now.
So that's why I'm saying we got to kind of move pretty quickly
Yeah.
on getting this list, so Jill can do that. Okay,
I think
Okay.
it's really important for all of us to remember that Sandy's job is not to police boats. His job is to protect lives. So this is secondary, even though the boats do result in issues where he and his people do go out and assist and save lives. But that's his first job. So we can't expect him to be policing up and down, back and forth, but we need your help. So he has to tend to his first mission, and that's what we all expect of him first.
And also keep in mind that this is a kayak launching. I mean, people can bring their, right now, people can bring their kayaks down, go out in them, and bring them back and take them home.
right.
It's not a kayak.
But they can't
sport.
leave them there in those spots, and they got to leave
Right.
with them.
That's right,
Okay.
that's correct for the ordinance,
Right.
right? They can come down, kayak, but they got to take their kayaks off the beach. That's not a kayak storage.
Right, correct. Okay. Anybody else have anything else?
All good.
We're actually pretty good here, we got 9 minutes. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? We're adjourned. We will be back in 8 minutes.